Jonas with us today. He is the founder of onlinejobs.ph, one of my favorite outsourcing tools. And I guarantee that you guys will get a lot of value today. So either tune in on the live stream or come join us live. You can ask questions in the meeting. We would absolutely love to have you there as well. And we're about to get started. All right, we are going to start recording here in 1 second. Got to kill some of these extra windows so that I'm not cluttered. And all right, let's do it. Other window back. All right, here we go. Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Andy Arna. Amy is in Australia today, so she's not with us. We're super excited to have John Jonas on with us today. John, thank you so much for being on.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited.
So, John, we always like what we get to call street cred. We like your street cred. So we would love to hear, share as much or as little as you like, but, maybe where you were born, raised, any school, any of your life up to this point, kind of why you landed where you are right now.
Okay, so I graduated from college in 2004 and I got a job. I worked that job for 8 months. I'm a terrible employee. My only goal when I had that job was to quit. And it took me 8 months to quit my job. And I quit working 9 to 5 so that I could work 24/7. Like so many entrepreneurs where I just thought, oh, you do it online, then everything's automated and you get to work a lot less. And that's just completely not true. And so I started trying to get help for my business and it kind of sucked. And I tried stuff locally. I tried stuff in India. It didn't work. I tried Elance, which is now Upwork. Yep. When Elance and Odesk merged, and just realized, oh yeah, this whole per project thing or this hourly thing just creates a burden for me. It's not allowing me to be the CEO. I ended up like getting some really good advice from someone of saying, oh, when you really start outsourcing some of the stuff, make sure you go to the Philippines with it. And I was like, oh, that's, odd and different because it's outsourcing, just outsourcing. It sucks, right? And he told me why it was different. And I didn't do it because, like, I don't know if I can keep someone busy full time, which was, that was the only option he gave me was hire someone full time. And I didn't know if they could actually do good work because this is, it's someone in the Philippines, like they can't actually do good work. And I ended up hiring them after a couple of months, and it was the most liberating experience of my life. I had this guy whose full-time job was to do anything I asked him to do, anything I would teach him to do, and he would do it. And it started taking things off of my plate, which was amazing. And then I started having people ask, like, how are you doing this? How is this working? Why does this work? What's so good about this? And I was like, dude, I don't know. It's just working for me. Like, this is amazing. I don't know why, but so I had people like have me start teaching their lists and like, okay, sure, I'll teach your list. I don't really know all that much, but I'll tell them what I know. After a couple of years of doing that, which by the way, that first person I ever hired still works for me today. That was 2005.
Awesome.
So I was like, dude, hiring people sucks. This sucks. And I was like, telling people what I was doing and how I was doing it. And then they'd be like, how do I find someone good? And I'm like, I don't know. It sucks. And finally I wanted to recruit someone for myself. And I was like, I just think there's a better way. I'm going to start this job board. Maybe I could get a couple hundred profiles into it. And so I hired someone in the Philippines to build this job board for me. And that was onlinejobs.ph, which you've used. And I had a couple hundred profiles in the first month, which was like shocking to me. And then it just kind of exploded from there. And we're almost at 2 million Filipino profiles. We've had hundreds of thousands of employers use it. You asked for street cred. I have spoken on 5 different continents about this. I've done hundreds of podcasts. That's
Awesome.
a little bit of my background and why I'm where I am.
Awesome. I love it. So, most people listening to this, especially in the e-com Amazon world, online jobs is pretty well known. But for somebody who doesn't know now, online jobs isn't just for VAs, but that seems to be kind of the gateway drug into the the overseas kind of talent pool. So, what is a VA, and what kind of stuff can they do for, especially the solopreneur or the small business who feels overwhelmed, because that's generally where people start going to look for help, kind of what you mentioned.
Yeah. So I stopped calling them VAs a while ago because people, like you're saying, like people don't really want a VA. They want someone who's really good at something, whatever it is. It's SEO, it's Amazon research and listing, So a secretary, like people think of VA as a secretary, and that's not who I hire, and that's not who you want to hire. So I started calling them OFS, which I invented the term OFS, online Filipino specialist. Because I mean, when I started, it was a VA. Like that dude knew nothing. And so you asked, like, what can they do for you? Well, he could do anything that I was willing to teach him to do, because that was the only option I had at the time. Today, you can hire people that are so experienced at so many things. I mean, just talking about SEO, you have people that have 10 years or 15 years of SEO experience at onlinejobs.ph, right? I mean, they've been through all the updates. They know the process. You have people that have built and been a part of Amazon stores multiple times for different clients. They have been a part of building Shopify stores. They're doing e-commerce work. You have people that are specialized in like, oh, I do e-commerce product research, or I will do your product listing for you, or I'll manage your reviews, or you have someone that has experience in a whole bunch of these things, and you can hire that person to do a whole bunch of things for you, just to take those things off of your plate. I have about 40 people on my team. They're all in the Philippines. I don't have any US people. And I run an 8-figure business, and they do design, they do programming, they do like all kinds of web work. They do data admin, they do server admin, they do HR, they write content, they do social media. I don't have Facebook or Instagram on my phone because I hate social media. And yet somehow I still manage to make a post every day or every other. I don't even know how often I make posts. I don't know, because they're doing it. They create the content. They're really good at it. It's so like, I mean, we have customers that have people in the Philippines making phone calls. They're scheduling calendar events. They're generating leads. They're following up. They're managing accounts. They're keeping up on inventory. They're researching new products. They're buying products. They're doing reporting. Like anything that can be done online or on a computer or on the internet or on the phone can be done with someone overseas.
Yeah, it's amazing. One of the things that I noticed, especially kind of as the platform matured, is that the talent pool was amazing. I mean, you had people there who were like going to school to be doctors, but in the meantime wanted a little money on the side, or accountants, or lawyers, and all these great people who education wise would blow a lot of people here out of the water. But they just don't quite have the opportunities in the Philippines that we have here. So that you get some amazing talent pool. And the other thing that a lot of people don't realize is, it's not just the kind of lower, I don't want to say lower end, because that's not a fair, but like the entry level type stuff, like you were saying, scheduling and all that kind of stuff. But you have people in there who are doing, PHP or, programming and databases and security, and pretty much, like you said, anything you can think of, even in like a Fortune 500 company, stuff that would be really, really kind of above the pay grade of even a lot of people in your local town in the US, probably you could find on online jobs. So that was one of the things that I really noticed kind of as the platform matured, was just the talent pool just got better and better and better. On that.
So really quickly, that's one of the really interesting things that people find. Like, you don't know how to find talent locally. Like, how do you go and find a good user interface designer? It's really hard because, where I live, there's like 2 million people, right? You're limited to 2 million people, period. That's it. When you go overseas, like, and there's 2 million people, that includes the children, that includes the grandparents, people aren't working, people have jobs. You go to onlinejobs.ph, and there's 2 million profiles of people ready to work, right? It just opens up this massive talent pool. And so along the lines of what you're saying, we have Google hiring through onlinejobs.ph. We have Uber hiring through onlinejobs.ph. Or like I have a friend that hired an investment banking analyst. He said, this guy's a $250,000 a year person. I'm paying him $1,500 a month. My brother, who's a lawyer, hired a lawyer in the Philippines to help him. Like it's amazing the quality of work you can find.
Yep, absolutely. So on that note, one of the biggest frustrations that I kind of ran into before I knew kind of how to navigate that world was just hiring, right? I mean, when you come with a giant pool like that, you have to kind of sift through to get the people that are going to be right for the task, right? You might hire somebody and they might not be not a talented worker or something like that, but just not a right fit for the job that you hired for. So do you have some tips on kind of the process that people should use to kind of find the right person and also kind of put them through the paces to make sure that they're going to be the right person for the job or the task that you're hiring for?
Okay, super, super important. I love what you said, that like they may have the skills, but they're not the right fit, right? Okay, so here are a couple things around this. Number one, you're hiring a human, and humans have feelings and families and problems and needs and desires, and you're not hiring a skill. And that's really, really important. So when you go into this, recognize, okay, like this is more than just I need to find someone with reviews on their profile, right? Because it's more than a skill. Also, that first person I ever hired was 2005. They still work for me today. This is one of the magic things about the Philippines. The Filipino people are not magical, even though I kind of describe them as they are. They're not. It's not a magic bullet. They're people, but they're super duper loyal. So when you hire someone, as long as you treat them well, they won't quit working for you. Which I have people that have worked for me since 2007 and 2009 and 2010 and 2011. And it really, really makes a big difference in a small business that you have this loyalty. So with that, recognize it's a process in hiring someone. Everybody's too busy to hire someone. I get that. I understand. Nobody wants to hire. I just sent an email to someone just now saying, he was like, I understand that I need to hire someone, but I'm just too busy. And my short term is really a bigger concern to me than the long term. I'm like, well, sorry, you can't run a business. If you are too busy to run your business, then you can't run a business. Like you have to take the long-term view of this. So let me give you some tips. What I'm going to explain right now, I'm going to explain in 5 minutes. I have a full step-by-step walkthrough of this at onevaoa.com. It's where I walk you through exactly what I'm going to tell you right now, just in way more detail. So here's how I find someone good. And I do this, like when I go to find someone, I'm going to find someone good every single time. It's not a question in my mind. I don't know if I'm going to find someone good. I don't know if I'm going to waste my time. I'm not going to waste my time. I know that. So step one is to define the role that you're going to hire someone for. And hopefully that role is to do something that you know how to do. And that's like the number one first step. The worst advice I ever see online is stick with what you're good at and outsource everything else. Like the worst advice. Okay, so you're good at product research. Cool. How much money can you make doing product research? You know, like I graduated from college in computer science. I can be a programmer. I can make like cap out at $200,000 a year, right? Maximum if I'm the best in the world, which I'm not. Should I just stick with what I'm good at? No, that's terrible advice. Outsource the things that you know how to do, get those things off of your plate, and be a CEO. Run your business. So first step, find something that you know how to do in your business and hire someone to do that. Now, this whole hiring process gets so much easier because when you go to onlinejobs.ph, your next step is to go and search for profiles. I just want you to look at 20 to 30 profiles. Put the skills in that you're looking for, search it. You know what skills you're looking for because you're hiring someone to do something you know how to do. You're looking to see, when you look at these, you're looking for what skills exist. Can I actually find someone with this? Does this exist? Number two, you're looking for salary. How much are people asking to make? Now go post your job. And when you post your job, because you're hiring someone to do something you know how to do, you know what to put in your title, you know what to put in your description, you now know how much salary to pay. It's so simple to post the job. So now you've posted your job. Maybe of those 20 to 30 profiles that you looked at in the first step, you want to contact a few of them. Contact them. Great. The wrong thing to do is to narrow it down from the beginning and say like, oh yeah. I don't like you, but you're the one I'm going to hire. That's not how it works, because these are profiles. This is kind of like using Indeed.com if Indeed was just like a free-for-all, which onlinejobs.ph kind of is, where we just let you contact people. It doesn't mean they're looking for work. And like I said, Filipinos are super loyal. If they already have a job and you email them, offering them work, they're probably not going to respond to you because they already have a job. And they're loyal to that employer, which is really great for you later on. It means they're not going to jump ship as soon as a better offer comes. And a caveat, you have to treat them well. And I can talk about that a little bit. So you have posted your job, you're getting applicants, you've maybe contacted a few people. Now your goal is to hire the best available person. And best doesn't mean highest skills. So what I do now is I will start sending emails to everybody. The first thing that everybody else wants to do is schedule a Skype interview, schedule a Zoom interview, like the worst way to do this process, because Filipinos don't want to do a video interview. They're scared of you. You try and schedule 10 interviews with 10 people, 5 of them won't even schedule. They'll just drop out of your recruiting process right there. Of the other 5 who do schedule, 3 of them won't show up. You're frustrated. You're mad because the Philippines sucks because they don't even show up to interviews that they scheduled. It's not the right way to do this. So start by sending them, or this is what I do. I send them 2, 3, 4 questions across 5 or 10 emails. And what I'm looking for, and this is really good for a virtual relationship, which is what this is going to be. I'm looking for their attention to detail. If I ask you 4 questions and you only answer 3 of them, well, the chance of me giving you 4 tasks and you only doing 3 of them is really high. And that doesn't work for me. If I send you an email today and you respond in 3 days from now, well, after I hire you, you're going to respond in 3 days. And that doesn't work for me. I want someone who's going to respond every day and probably twice a day. So that's a big deal. In doing this, I also get to see their personality. And like we talked about, you're hiring a person. And you're probably going to have some people that are like really, really skilled, but you're going to cringe when you get an email from them because your personalities just don't mix. And I've hired that person before. And after I hired him, it was like, oh, this sucks. I don't want to talk to you, but you have to, right? Because you're hiring a person, you're not hiring a skill. And so you get to see their personality. You get to see, are there any red flags with this person? Like, do they have every skill and they cost $250 a month for full-time work? Sorry, that's not realistic. That's not a real person. That's a scammer. So you get to see all these things. And then now what you'll find is, number one, people will drop themselves out of the recruiting process. A crappy worker doesn't want to answer 5 or 6 or 10 emails. A scammer doesn't want to go through that. They want an easy job, right? And then you'll drop people out of the recruiting process as you'll find like, yeah, you know what? You're just not working for me. Like your skills aren't there. What you said on your profile doesn't match what you're emailing me. I can tell your English isn't good enough, whatever it is, right? So you drop people out, they drop themselves out. You'll just find like you've narrowed it down to 5, 3, 10 people. And now is a good time to give a test task. So come up with something that you can have them do. If it's going to take them longer than 20 minutes, offer to pay for this task. And maybe you pay $5, maybe you pay $10. It doesn't have to be a ton, but just offer to pay. They're very scared of doing work and not getting paid. And then you can do a video interview. Now's the time to do the video interview. And now, you're negotiating salary, you're negotiating work hours, if you've done this process, you're probably pretty dang excited about the people who are left in your recruiting process. And you're excited because you recognize, oh yeah, I'm about to get stuff done. And this is cool. And maybe I want to hire 2 or 3 of these people because they all seem amazing. And you just have to choose. So that's how I do this. There are other ways to do it. It's pretty successful for me.
So John, I would have to say what you suggested is exactly where I landed after lots of trial and error. You know, I wish I would have seen that guidance earlier, but yeah, and a lot of times, you know, I will give a trial task to like say three of the top contenders, right? And see which one does, because it's one thing to filter out and just the communication, like you said, the English skill, the attentiveness, you know, if they respond, all that kind of good stuff. But then I also like to get the tires to the pavement, right, and see how they actually you know, and a good way to do that is like you said, to just break off a small little task. You know, say you're in the real estate industry, like my wife, you know, okay, hey, go and research and find, you know, three houses in this neighborhood, you know, something that's fairly simple, but is pretty detailed. And, you know, give it to all three at the same time. That's what I do. I literally like will get on like a WhatsApp or something and I'll fire it off to all three of them and say like, hey, bring this back in 2 hours. And pretty quickly I'll know, number one, you know, how well they're going to follow directions, how fast they're going to deliver, all those things. And like you said, I always offer to pay, you know, whatever their hourly rate is. I'm like, yeah, I'll do that. You know, even if I get crappy results on that 1 hour, you know, it's worth the $3 or $4 to kind of take them off the plate rather than spending 50 or 100 and find out after that that it's not worth it. So I absolutely love all that. I think all of those are great. Now, the next roadblock in this journey. This is awesome I love that I get to pick your brain here, because like I said, I started on online jobs probably pretty early on. You know, it was pretty basic. I think it was probably when you know, closer to when you first started. And so you did have to do a little bit more of the work on your own. You've kind of simplified it now, but that was good in terms of, you know, really kind of learning the process and kind of forcing myself to understand how to really get the most value out of these you know, workers from the Philippines. So after you get somebody onboarded, the next huge thing or a couple things that I noticed is, number one, there's no such thing as a jack of all trades in the Philippines. It's true in the US as well, but I would say especially in the Philippines. Correct me if I'm wrong here. These are just my own observations. And number two is, like you said, they can do just about anything, but you have to have great systems and processes in place. And that was a huge missing part for me early on. I was too lazy. You know, you said you had that person before we started who had, you know, a small business, but like didn't have the time to, you know, to run their business. Well, that's one of the things that you have to realize when you bring these workers on is you can't just say, hey, I want you to do this thing. They're going to be confused if you don't even know how to do it yet. So systems are really important. Can you kind of speak to, you know, with somebody who's not super familiar with the system, what a system is and how they can create a simple system that they can hand off to, you know, the person that they hire?
Yeah. So that first person that I hired, he built a business that was making me $10,000 to $15,000 a month, and he did all the work. But I taught him every single bit of it. I taught him how to do all of those things, right? And that right there is kind of the key. And this is why people who succeed with this and hire someone to do something that they know how to do, because you can teach someone. So systems, I have a different approach to this. I just did a podcast last week with someone who was like, man, you got to create these systems ahead of time. You have to have processes, structured SOPs in your business. And I'm like, dude, I suck at that. I suck at it and I hate it. And I think so many entrepreneurs are really good at pushing things through, but not really great at like the details of creating a standard operating procedure. So this is one of the things that I've found is so amazing about the Philippines is that, like I said, they're loyal, which means you can teach them things over time, which is how I have done this in my business. But you have to be involved. I had another guy who came to me and he was like, I hired this guy and he said he was amazing, but he didn't do it right the first time. I'm like, well, duh. Yeah, of course he didn't do it right the first time. I don't know. I can't be teaching him it. Well, yep. Sorry, this isn't going to work for you, right? If you can't spend time with someone, it's not going to work for you. So here's how I create systems and processes. One, I almost never do it before I hire because it just doesn't work for my personality. Two, I never do anything written at first. I have written things, but it's very, very rare. And usually it's after we've solidified a process. So I have something in my mind. I know what we want to do. I will open up Snagit, which there's a bunch of things like this. Snagit is a screen capture, screen recording software. You drag it out, it records your desktop. You can record your face. It's going to record your mouse and your voice. Loom is a really popular one. Tiny Take is a free one. There's so many of these options. Screencast-O-Matic is another one. This is how I create training for my people. I will record it out or open it up and drag it out, and then I'm going to record my screen. And I'm going to say, hey, I want you to go do this task. Here's how I do it. I go here, I grab this data. I'm going to come back to this website. I'm going to put it in like this. You have to be careful with these things, like pay attention to this. And here's the theory behind it. And here's why I do this. And I'll talk through the whole process. And then the really great thing about these things is when you're done, I don't actually know how Loom works. I just use Snagit, but you click stop, you click upload. That's the end of it. And that is real magic. Because when I started doing this, it was like, I used Camtasia Studio, and you click stop and you go through the rendering process and you render and you upload it to a server and you get the FTP details and you send them, like that sucks. Or you have to attach it to an email and oh, it's too big to attach and that sucks. If you just use one of these systems, Snagit, Loom, Tiny Take, whatever, it makes the whole thing so simple. So then with that, here's what I find is my first time doing the video, about half the time it's great, which means half the time it sucks. And so, and I know that half the time that you create one, your training sucks. And I know that because I get it from people. Like they're like, oh, this guy sucks. He can't follow instructions. Here's the instructions I gave him. It's so obvious. And I watch their instructions. I'm like, dude, your instructions suck. I have no clue what you're asking me to do here. You know, I know why your OFS didn't do this task because I don't know how to do it. So when they don't do something right, which they won't do it right. I mean, they will, but they won't. Go back and give the instructions again, and recognize it's probably your fault that it's not getting done right. And then here's what's really great about this. So you get it right with them. They're doing it right. They start to take that thing off of your plate. Now you ask them, go create a standard operating procedure for me. Document this process. Create a Google Doc. Here's all of our documentation. Wherever you do it, however you're going to do this, have them create it for you, right? They're good at it. They know what they're doing now. Include all your videos that you just created in that process. Now, when someone else comes along, you say, hey, whoever's working for me, teach this person also how to do it, right? And you never teach the process again because that person's still working for you, 17 years later, like my people.
Yeah, I love that. The other thing that a lot of people won't realize is you give that first person kind of the freedom to iterate, right? You say, hey, when they come back, be like, oh, ask some questions. Oh, well, I kind of ran into this. They're like, oh, did you try this? Iterate on those processes, and give them the freedom to change it and make it better. And you'll be surprised that they will do that. So I love that. All that was great advice. Loom and all that fun stuff. Yeah, it's literally just a link that you can send, and it's super fantastic. Now, yeah. So another thing that people run into, and it's not nearly as prevalent now. Once again, I've noticed in the last probably 3 years, probably because the Philippines has become such a hub for kind of this networked, remote workforce, is electric and internet. A lot of people don't realize, but a lot of the Philippines is still pretty rural, and their infrastructure isn't quite there like ours is. So, that is, some of the things that you might want to include it in terms of the initial interview, like, hey, do you have decent internet? What about your power? Do you have any, issues there? What other kinds of things should people be asking, during the process of onboarding?
So I'll just preface this with that. At One VAOA, which I already talked about, I have like 80 questions that I ask in an interview process, right? It's in a document there that you get with it. So other important questions are like, I want to see a profile. I want to see an example of your work, obviously. I want to know where you live. I want to know, do you read? What do you read? How often do you read? Do you write? Do you journal? Do you like that? That's a good indicator of like, how creative are you going to be? Are you writing things? Are you reading things? What kind of TV shows do you watch? What did you watch growing up? Did you watch Sesame Street, or did you watch Dora? Did you watch the US version of Dora, or did you watch the Filipino version of Dora? That'll give a pretty good indication of their English. Um, can you take an internet speed test for me? That's a good one. You can do a typing test to see how quickly they type. And then I'll ask like random questions like, where do you live? Who do you live with? Are you married? Do you live with your parents? Do you have a car, which is super rare? I'm just going to ask questions just to get them talking. And that's when you really start to see the personality come through. So other than that, I don't really have things that, like if you're hiring a video editor, you got to know their internet speed. Otherwise, today, in my experience, most people's internet's fine. What kind of computer do you have? What are the specs on your computer? If they're just writing content, it's not really that big of a deal. Everything can be done on Google Docs. Pretty simple. Nothing ever gets lost when their computer crashes. But if you have a programmer, they probably need a decent computer or a video editor or an audio editor or designer. Those people probably need something better. And so you can ask, like, what do you have? What's your, yeah. Wait a minute. Hold on a second. I'm not hearing you.
That would be my fault when you forget to unmute yourself. That would be the operator error there. In terms of accountability, so one of the other issues I ran into early on, and I'm sure some people have run into this, and probably a lot of times it is, in looking back on it, it was not being super clear, not having personal accountability in terms of kind of like some litmus, some kind of like pillars of completeness. I can't think of the word right now. But in other words, having some accountability just on paper in terms of this task needs to be done by then and this. But one of the tools that I did use, at least when I was first using some of the employees that I didn't quite know well enough yet, was a tool called Hubstaff, which kind of does random screenshots, and some of the other kind of freelancer platforms do this. I've noticed that there are some VAs that will just cheat those systems, and like once again I said, that's rare, but they're going to exist on the platform. Kind of what do you suggest tools like that in the beginning? Do you suggest other types of accountability? Kind of how do you keep your VA honest in terms of hours and work and things like that?
So what I find is, first of all, the Philippines is a third world country. They don't want to be called a third world country. They want to be called an emerging economy, but it's hard to find a job in the Philippines. And when they get a job and the employer treats them well, which I've said that a lot of times, they don't want to lose that job. They don't want to do things to jeopardize losing that job. But if you don't keep them busy and they have extra free time, then they're going to find another job. They're going to keep working for you, but their priority becomes another job. So in terms of keeping them honest, number one, keep them busy. Give them enough work so that they're busy. And if very early on, this happened, sent something to them. I thought it's going to take them like 3 days. Like 4 hours later, I get an email that says, "Sir, I'm done with this. What do you want me to do now?" I was like, holy crap, I got all this crap to do. What am I going to do? I can't, I get like 100 emails here. Sorry. Like, you have to be the CEO. It was the first time I realized I have to step away and work on my business, not in my business. Right. And so in terms of keeping them honest, that's a big deal. Make a commitment to themselves by paying a full-time salary that you're going to keep them busy and you're going to take care of their family. And when you make that commitment that they just want to be better to you. If you pay them hourly, well, then, like if I had paid that guy hourly, you finished the task. Sweet. Sorry. I don't know what to tell you. I don't have something for you to do right now. Okay. Well, then I'm going to go find another job. Right. Next. So I don't use any time trackers. At onlinejobs.ph, we have a free one. You can use it. It's called Time Proof. It does that. It takes random screenshots. It records their time. I don't like it. I don't want someone recording my time. They don't like it. They don't like to use it. I don't want to go look at the crap. I don't want to go look at their reporting. So what I do is I pay someone a salary. I ask them to work 40 hours a week. They never work 40 hours a week because you can't track 40 hours a week with a time tracker, especially not in the Philippines. They're too scared of you seeing anything wrong. And so I just gauge it based on productivity. How productive are you? Like I have a pretty good idea how long this task takes. It's probably going to take you a little bit longer than it takes me. Fine. You know, you're costing me $3.50 an hour. You're costing me $5 an hour. You know, it's okay if it takes a little bit longer or a lot longer. But what you'll find usually is in the beginning, they work really hard and then productivity will tail off. And when that happens, this is when you find out, are we going to work together? Right? So you go back to them and say, hey, I notice your productivity is declining. What's going on? Why? Are you not busy enough? Have I not given you enough? Or do you have another job? Are you not being paid enough? What's the situation? Start asking questions. And to me, that is as effective as anything. They learn to trust you. They know that you trust them, and they really, really want to do a good job. Obviously, there are still people that are going to take advantage of this. I had one of my best people, one of my best people today, like 10 years ago, I got an email from her that was intended for her other employer. Right. And she was working 2 jobs. And I was like, hey, what's going on? This sucks, you know? And I've noticed your productivity has gone down. Why? What's going on? We talked all through it. She gets her productivity way, way up. It's really, really great. Today, she's managing training programs for us. Like she's managing hiring people to build training systems for us. She's also managing my social media. Like she's amazing, but I had to go through that with her. So there's definitely some trust here. And let me just give this advice to people saying, you know, I don't know if I can trust this person. They have that same feeling of, I don't know if I can trust this employer, but their feeling is stronger than your feeling. So when you go into this, recognize, oh, they don't trust me. I don't trust them, and I shouldn't. There's no reason for you to trust them. But until they trust you, they're not going to go above and beyond. They're not going to be a rock star until they know, okay, this employer, I can trust him. He's going to pay me on time. He's not going to fire me for silly reasons. He's not going to yell at me because I made a mistake. Until they trust you, they're not going to do really amazing work. So that should be your first priority going into this is, how do I gain this person's trust?
Yeah, that's great advice. So the other thing I would love for you to cover is, you know, in the Philippines, they really, really value family. They really value time off. So, can you explain sort of more of the values, the way of life there, kind of, you know, how holidays and time off there are really important, you know, what to expect in that realm, because it is different than what we're used to here.
Yeah, it's a super family-oriented culture. In fact, most people you find will live with their parents. They may be married, they may have kids, they still live with their parents. Their parents babysit their kids as they go to work. Holidays, first of all, the Philippines has way, way, way more holidays than we do. And not all of them are mandatory time off, but there's enough of them. So like Christmas time, this is so hard because if you're running an e-commerce business, that's like the critical time, right? And yet some Filipinos, like the thought of not being home on Christmas, which they might live on a different island from their parents. It's a 14-hour boat ride. It's more than just a 14-hour boat ride. It's like when they're there, they have to be involved in family things. You can't just keep working. It's not that easy. And if the thought of not being there is so terrible for them that they would rather lose their job and try and hope that they find another job after the new year, right? So it's just something to be aware of, that like you need to pay attention and address this before Christmas, where their culture values this time so much. Funerals is the same thing, where they are required to be there. There's not an option. Their aunt died, they're required to be there. and it's going to take them a week or two. I know people are always like, oh, this is so stupid. This isn't real. They're just scamming me. Nope, it's real. So we offer our people unlimited paid time off. I don't manage holidays. I don't want to deal with it. I don't do this to give myself another thing to manage. I don't manage how much time they take off. I don't really care. The one thing I ask them is if they're going to take time off, I just want to know ahead of time. That's it. I always say yes. If they're sick, then just let me know as soon as you can. And so I've had people that are like in the hospital and their sister will email me like, oh, she's sick in the hospital. I'm so sorry. I'm like, okay, cool. Like, how can we help? You know? So that's how we handle this. It is a different culture, but they also really, really want to do good work for you. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think part of the, a lot of them are are also religious and have like values in terms of wanting to, because Christmas is a religious holiday. There, like you said, it's kind of part of their being. So it's really, really hard for them to step away from that. And I think that if you go into what I do with my Filipino workers these days is just as I'm hiring them, like, what are your expectations in terms of time off, in terms of holidays, and get on the same page. And also, I agree. I think that you just need to be generous. Not just the fact that you're paying in comparison to you couldn't pay a high school kid down the road from me here to a fraction of the amount I'm paying some of these workers, and just appreciate that value that you're getting there and return the favor in terms of being really generous on all those fronts. That's just my opinion. You do what you're going to do, but I would, if going into it, I would be very aware of those things. All right, I'm going to throw you kind of a curveball here. Now, you may or may not be able to answer this one, but I think it might be a fun one. Is a lot of people don't realize you can get immediate value to your business as soon as you hire, somebody from the Philippines to kind of help you. So what are like either maybe for those people who are doing a 9 to 5, and I just knocked a can off my thing here. Doing the 9 to 5. I'm not in my normal studio today. I'm so off. Sorry to Sean and my guest. We just had the whole house painted. Anyway, in terms of maybe somebody working a 9 to 5, a side hustle that they could maybe spool up in a day or two and start getting some immediate value from, even if it's like $100 a month, or maybe something for their business that maybe nurturing an email list, something that somebody could do in the next 24 to 48 hours that could bring some immediate value to their business or to like some type of side hustle.
So you're asking like what could someone do for a business, or what could they hire?
Well, so in other words, say I run a software business. You'll be very familiar with that. And, I run a small software business. I'm really trying to grow. What are some things I could hire from being a solopreneur? What could I hire for in the next day or two that you could really see like a significant impact with hiring somebody from the Philippines?
Okay. So number one, customer support. Like, such an easy thing to get time off of your plate, right? Like, you have you don't want to teach them to do customer support. Great. Give them all of the emails that you've sent to customer support and say, go read these. Create a database of common answers, right? You already have common answers that you send to people. Have them create that for you. And then start creating drafts. Like, they don't have to do it all at once, right? Create a draft email to every one of these things. And then I will go and actually edit them or send them. Over time, they'll get better at it. I have a girl that does that with my personal email now. She logs into my email and she sees things and she archives things that she knows I don't want to see. And then she creates draft emails for people. And this week, I don't think I've edited any of them. I just send them, so that's a big deal. Something else you could immediately get value from is hire someone to do SEO. Like, you need it, right? You're going to benefit from it. You need someone with good English experience that has SEO experience, and they're going to write content. They're going to start getting links for you. That's such a big deal. Design work. I don't know any business that doesn't need design work, and most people don't need a full-time designer, but you can hire a part-time designer. You can hire a project designer. You can hire someone and just have them there for you. So simple. Oh, you want to start a podcast? Great. Find an audio editor. That's like the first thing. Don't edit your own crap. Right? Get an audio editor. Maybe the audio editor knows how to set up your podcast. I'll tell you that when I started my podcast, I don't know where the audios are hosted. I don't know how it's done. I don't know how it works. I just record and send it to people in the Philippines, and they edit, they make videos, they make blog posts, they do links, they all of it, right? I have a guy across the street who he works 9 to 5, and then he also like buys warehouse pallets of stuff and he sells them on eBay, and he has a VA. I don't even know what they're doing for him. I just know he hired someone in the Philippines, and I know at one point she was like taking posts from his site. She was listing things on his site and then going and posting them on Facebook Marketplace for sale, so that people would see it and they go to his website, and that's how he markets these things. Super, super simple. Man, there's so many things that.
Yeah. I mean, I can give some too, just to add to yours is, backlinking, like you said, SEO, SEO is great, but you can also backlink, give them a list of directories and say, hey, go start listing my stuff here, or reaching out to blogs and say, hey, can we do a guest post, with some backlinking, or like you were saying in the podcast world, I'm pretty sure somebody from your team reached out to me and said, hey, I'd love to be on, I have a great guest for your podcast. Podcasts are a great way to get your brand, or, depending on what you're doing, get your name out there for free, or, is just, talking about what you're doing and how you're doing it. And, that builds a ton of interest for your business. So yeah, those are all great suggestions. I think that, in this day and age, if you're not, I mean, even if like, I've been thinking about this a lot, even if you've got a corporate 9 to 5 job, I guarantee you there's something that you're doing right now that you could push off to somebody in the Philippines that would probably do it better than you. You're be careful in your company. There might be something in your contract or thing that says you can't do that. But, if there's not that, you could actually be bringing extra value to your company by getting more work done by outsourcing some of your work.
Yep.
So
Yep.
there's a lot of great things that you can do there. Now, John, we always like to kind of end the show with, at least for me personally, I'm 44 years old now. I hate dating myself, but that's where I am now. It took me this many years to really figure out that, personal development for me at least was one of the issues that I really had to, or should have tackled in my 20s, which would have done so much for me in my 30s and 40s. Anything along your journey, whether it's books or podcasts or, your faith, and anything along your journey that really kind of guided you and made a huge impact in where you are in your professional life today.
Yeah, I'm also 44, and there's a couple things. So number one, I would say the Book of Mormon, which is my faith. And I set time aside every single day to take care of my spiritual side. And it's a big deal. It helps me mentally, it helps me spiritually, and to be right spiritually, I think puts you in a good state of mind to be right in business. A couple of the things that really helped me, like you're talking about personal development, was understanding sales. Like figuring out how to sell something online gave me the confidence to start every business that I've ever started. If you can't sell online, if you're super uncomfortable with that, well, you really have a hard time running an online business. And so learning that, I bought a couple of copywriting courses early on, just made such a difference. The book Scientific Advertising is so dang good towards that. And then personal finances, when I quit my job, I had zero debt. I didn't have a car payment. I've never had a car payment. We owned a house at the time, but our payment was $750 a month, and we finished the basement, so we were renting it out for $550 a month. I've just made sure that I could take risks financially, that's a big deal, to be able to take risks. Because if you can't take the risks, you can't take the payoff, right? So that's been a big deal.
Awesome. Yeah, high risk, high reward. Yeah, I mean, somebody else who's epic and to this day I think is one of the best salespeople on the planet, Russell Brunson, of ClickFunnels fame. If you haven't seen his stuff, some of his stuff's really great. I love his potato gun story, and how he kind of fell into it, but he just kept hammering away and figuring it out, and I absolutely love that. Yeah. And then personal finance, Rich Dad Poor Dad is one of my favorites, and we tout that a lot, but so does everyone else. And then Extreme Ownership is one that I just listened to, which is another really great one about being a leader and just taking ownership of all the failure, taking ownership of everything pretty much, which to me made a huge difference with what I'm doing as well. All right. On that note, John, where can people get a hold of you? Feel free to plug your podcast. How can people learn more or get more from you?
So you can get more at johnjonas.com, where you can find my podcast there. You can find my newsletter there, which my newsletter goes to like 85,000 people. And I get comments every single day on how much people like it because I add value every day. I don't participate in social media, but if you want to get me on social media, you can. You just comment, say something towards me. One of my VAs is going to see it. They're probably going to screenshot it. They're going to send me the screenshot. I'm going to respond to my OFS, and they're going to respond to you. Or email. My email is john@onlinejobs.ph. I will answer email. That's how you can find me.
Awesome. All right, John. Hey, thank you so much for being on. I really appreciate it. I love your service. I'm not getting paid to say that either. I've used it for many, many years. It's my favorite. Like you said, I did the same thing of going through all the different services and just there was a lot of frustration there. I like how your platform's pretty free, where I kind of get to determine how I'm going to hire and interact, which I really love. So, John, thank you so much. Really, really appreciate having you on. And for all of you who joined us live in the meeting here, if you have any quick questions, go ahead and fire those really quickly. For everybody who watched the streaming, thank you so much for doing that. But please join us live every Tuesday, 1 p.m. Pacific time, sellerroundtable.com/live. That's when you actually get to be in here and watch it live, interact, all that fun stuff. If you haven't done so yet, please rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast. Let your friends know. Thank you guys so much for being on the Seller Roundtable. Thanks, John.
Thanks for having me.